Now that we have entered December, I thought it would be fun to go back and revisit all of my favorite films from this year so far. Just to kind of, make a year's end list for one, and for two, to see how they really hold up, because the excitement after you watch a film and, the memory of it in the moment, and then you go back sometimes and you rewatch and you're like, this isn't as good as I remember. And then the opposite can happen as well, where you watch a movie and you're like, oh, that was all right. And then you go back and you watch it and you thought it was amazing. Shit, there's been movies that I thought were terrible, and then I went back and I watched them a second time because everyone raves about them, and I'm like, oh my god, this movie was fucking amazing. What's wrong with me? What was I thinking? I did that with Session 9. I couldn't believe it the second time that I didn't like it the first. I was like, what was I must have been on my phone or something. Put down your phones. Seriously. It distracts from the film, especially ones that have a storyline. Anyway, so I was actually lucky enough to catch The Void in January. A buddy of mine hosts a festival, the Phoenix Fear Festival down in Phoenix, and he watches all of the submission films, and he picks, he votes with a few other people to which ones get into the festival. And he called me up and he said, I have this film that is absolutely incredible. It's going to make its rounds. It's going to become a cult thing. This is going to be the big film of the year. And this is a dude that I trust 1 billion%. And he was like, I'll give you the screener, check it out, whatever. And so I just kind of went into it basically blind, and I threw it on, and my God, was he right. This is such an incredible film. This is one of those films, and I've had a few that have happened in the last few years. Now, I'm not trying to call anyone out here or say that my opinion's better or that I think I'm, know-it-all or anything like that. That isn't what I'm trying to say here. But as a film fan, especially of horror primarily, this is one of those films. A film like The Witch that recently came out, or It Follows, or there's been a few films that have come out in the last few years, or It recently, where I'm watching them, and when I later go online and I talk to some people who are other real horror fans, and they say they didn't enjoy it, I truly don't understand how that's possible. These are films that cater to everything I possibly could think a horror movie should have. They're fresh, but also kind of catering to things that already we know we like. It's really weird when someone tells me that The Void wasn't good, or they hated it or something, and they're like horror fanatics. It really truly baffles me. I don't understand. This movie is near perfection. So anyway, let's get into this movie. Rewatching this was wonderful yet again. I was wondering if it was going to hold up, and honestly, I think it was even better the second time. It just, and if you don't know what this movie is about, I would recommend going into it as blind as possible. I say that for every film, and I mean it. But this one would definitely be even better, I think, than the majority of ones I say to do that for. This one, just go in, because I think that a lot of the imagery would be more impactful being seen within the film. Trailers ruin a lot of those key moments within film where you have, I remember 300 being like that, where they showed this incredible imagery. Like 300, don't like 300. You can't argue that it has incredible imagery. I think that 300 was one of the greatest trailers I ever saw in my life. I was blown away by the imagery within that trailer. I was just like, oh my God, so many scenes. The tree with the bodies in it and him kicking the dude off, and an unbelievable amount of things. That trailer was incredible. And when I watched the movie, although I did enjoy the film, I would have enjoyed it way more if I hadn't seen the trailer, just due to the reveal of certain moments within the film that it was just setting a tone for the film. And it does take away from it during your experience. So avoiding trailers, if possible, is always the best. This movie starts with a bang, and it really never lets up. Now, this is why I praise a film like this, is because it doesn't rely on jump scares at all. Like, this is an old school horror film where it is all about tension building and atmosphere. And it just is this slow building of dread. And it uses nightmarish imagery to spook you and to start making you feel unsettled and uncomfortable. As the film progresses, you start to doubt your own sanity as you're watching the film. And that is what all the best horror movies ever did, in my opinion. I don't mind jump scares, and I don't mind that those kinds of films exist now. I'm not the horror person that's like, they suck and I wish they would die. It's like, I get the audience that they're for, and sometimes they can be fun and they're whatever. There's plenty of films that have them in them, and I still love those films. So I'm not completely against them. I just think that this shows off the true talent of a director. If you can make a film that relies completely on atmosphere and tension versus small little bursts of gags and jump outs where the audience loses its tension, because that's what happens when you scare somebody like that by throwing something at them. They get a little rush, ha ha ha, and then they release all that tension that you've been building. It would be like, letting the steam out of a steam pipe when you're trying to get that big explosion. You wouldn't get anywhere near as big of an explosion. In fact, it wouldn't even ever happen. So that's a big problem with it. And I think that this film just completely keeps building it throughout. As I said, if you want to go in this completely blind, go ahead. I'm not going to talk spoilers here, but I will do a little bit of a comparison here. A lot of people compare this to John Carpenter's The Thing. And while I do agree that is an apt description, I think that it also mirrors another Carpenter film, In the Mouth of Madness. The creatures within this have it is kind of a blending between The Thing and In the Mouth of Madness, especially like that end scene when Trent's looking down the hall and that wall of fucking nuts, crazy, I don't even know what to call it, just a wall of death as these creatures and these monsters all piled together running at him. It looks like some of those, and then it's got like the tentacles and whatever from that. So the only thing that I've seen people complaining about that I kind of understand is that it has a fairly simple story to it. And I mean, I can agree with that to an extent, but I feel like a more complex story would have taken away from the film. You're so busy thinking about all these things, it wouldn't have given you time to just immerse yourself in the creepiness and the eeriness and the fear that's going on here. So I don't see that being a downside of this. I mean, take a movie like The Thing. I consider it to be the greatest horror movie ever made, and the story is very, very, very simple. That doesn't mean anything. Halloween is the most simple fucking horror movie ever. There's a madman. He breaks out of fucking, sanitarium, and he comes after some babysitters, and he tries to kill them, and that's it. I mean, that's the story. There really is no story to that movie. So a story in a horror movie, while it can work, it doesn't need to be there almost at all in order to be effective. So that complaint, I don't know. I feel like people just expect too much from shit now. I really do. But whatever. Anyway, this was a movie that once I knew who was making it, like Jeremy Gillespie and these guys, like I was like, oh, this is like some of the dudes behind Astron 6, like Father's Day and Manborg, and they kind of split off and did their own thing, and they went off and they did The Void, and then the other dudes went off and did The Editor. And if you haven't seen The Editor, Jesus, that movie's fantastic. If you love like 70s giallo films, like, you know, the Argento stuff or whatnot, oh my God, that is such a fantastic film. That would also be one I'd like to revisit here pretty soon. But as soon as I saw it was these guys, I was like, oh my God, this is exciting. This is super exciting. If you haven't seen Father's Day as well, that's a lot of fun. Manborg is more of their, you know, early stuff, but it's still a good time. If you haven't, for some reason, definitely check out the posters for this. They have a ton of them, and they're all great. Just poster art has become a thing of the past for a lot of the bigger budget stuff. Like, they do some really simplistic Photoshop crap. They've lost the art of posters. Posters used to be amazing. It was something that you wanted to frame and put on your wall because it was a piece of art. Now it is just generic garbage, like a close-up of a face with some words over it. It's terrible what they've done to posters, but The Void does some fantastic poster work. Check those out for sure. But yeah, I seriously can't say enough good about this. If for some reason you have not seen this movie, it is currently streaming on Netflix. If you're a big fan of The Thing, if you were super crazy excited for that Harbinger Down movie because they were like all creature effects guys and they wanted to do everything practical, and that movie was not good at all, and you were bummed out of your mind, this is the answer. This is the movie you were waiting for. This is the practical effects, creature feature, awesome fucking movie that Harbinger Down should have been when it had 10 times the budget that this movie had. I think this movie had like an $80,000 budget that they did completely crowdfunded in Harbinger Down. I don't know how much Harbinger Down is. I'll have to look into that. I thought it was like upwards to like almost like $1 million, but I could be wrong on that. Regardless of the budget, I don't give a shit. This movie decimated it in every way. It is wonderfully shot. It looks fantastic. The acting is solid. The imagery, everything is on point. This is a John Carpenter's 1980s creature feature love letter, and it is fantastic. It will 100% for sure be in my top 5 of this year, if not number 1. So anyway, guys, man, this was a lot of fun to fucking revisit. Let me know if you've seen it. Let me know what you think. I can't imagine what the fuck people see wrong with this film, honestly. But, you know, if you don't like it, you don't like it. And you know, I won't think you're an idiot.